Rolling.
We're recording.
All right.
All right.
Are we going to cheers to our misfit drinks?
What are misfit drinks?
That's just not our usual.
Oh. Cheers to our ride this morning, our mountain bike ride.
Good job.
Did 13.5 miles in 1 hour and 8 minutes, so that was pretty good.
Yeah. You kept a good pace.
That's pretty good with you, for you.
Thank you.
Just had to unplug this so it didn't overheat. So here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you
We're
been
kind
wanting
of close.
Can you handle it?
Yeah, I can handle it.
So what have you been wanting to talk about?
Oh, I don't know. Not too much. So we should do a podcast.
Right. I think you need a few things to talk about.
Well, you recently have been trying to teach women how to not get catfished and how to pick the right guy, and evidently you think you did that. So I'm
Yeah.
Here I am,
The big catch.
big sucker fish.
No, not the sucker fish.
Oh, okay.
But I do think there are some really terrific analogies, and I'm hoping that there are a few women out there who actually have been fishing, because it really applies. And there's so many wonderful analogies in nature. And, because we've, of course, been living with nature for
by the
eons.
way, this is the Jon and Tara podcast.
Yeah, hi.
I'm Jon, this is Tara.
I'm Tara.
Tara.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Joya scratch. She got me this morning when I was brushing her belly. Joya's a kitty. It looks like she laughs when I brush her belly. She throws her head back and goes, ah, like that.
Does she make a noise?
No, she doesn't make a noise, but she just throws her head back and opens her mouth. It looks like she's trying to laugh. It'd be funny if she laughed.
It would be.
Like a kitty laugh. Something like that.
Yeah, that would be really cute.
So yeah, relationships, huh? They're the topic at hand these days, right? I suppose they always are.
What do you think is, so if landing a good guy is like fishing, what do you think getting a good woman is like? Because I don't think it's fishing.
Getting a good woman, I think most guys they build a good woman. I think there's like, so building a good woman, having a good woman is like buying a classic car, right? And then refurbing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Restoring it, making it, you want the body that it has, right? But you want to change all the internal components. you got to put new brakes on it. You got to refresh the engine. You got to do all this stuff, right? So.
It's not like a kit car, because then it would be new, but then you're like doing your specialty things.
Well, not many guys get new women.
Yeah.
They've driven down the road a little bit.
Yes. True.
Not trying to offend you.
Well, it wouldn't offend me. I hadn't been driven much.
Much.
Or I hadn't been driving around much.
A couple of test drives.
Well, I hadn't been on the market. I hadn't been on the road very long.
You weren't in the lot for long.
Yeah. So.
Okay, that's a terrible analogy. I'll admit that's a terrible analogy.
Okay.
I mean, it has its place in some aspects, but it's not a good analogy. I think men and women should get together, and if you get along, like we knew each other for 6 months before we started dating, so that's a good amount of time, to know somebody and to be.
But we knew each other more casually, like.
Well, we were interacting almost daily, like 5-6 days a week.
I don't think it was that.
You
much.
were coming to class quite a bit.
You were dreaming about me on some of those days.
Okay.
Then.
Okay. Well, what?
Maybe 3-4.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's still quite a bit.
That's a heck of a lot. Because we weren't working together. We weren't on the job together. We didn't go to the same church. We didn't live in the same town. We didn't, so 4 days a week is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed having you in class. Anybody that comes to a martial art class and works hard, the instructor enjoys having them there. They have pertinent questions, and when the instructor gives them an answer, they go and they practice what the instructor said to practice. That's a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you want to please your martial arts instructor, do what they say, practice what they say to practice, and then push yourself farther ahead as far as you can, and then say, I was trying this and this is what I did, and they'll see improvement in you, and they'll give you more tips to more advanced, you know, techniques and methods and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll feel really cool in the martial arts.
Yeah.
Like, I know this. Sound effects. I know sound effects. So yeah.
Sound effects do help.
Yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
So we don't have an analogy for the woman, because I do think
I have so many analogies, but as I run through them, they all seem so inappropriate.
Mm.
No, I do. I do have a lot of analogies. I think growing together is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the whole restoration thing came up. You know, it's like if a woman is adaptable, which she needs to be with a man long term, and it's like fixing up that car or accessorizing your motorcycle, or you know, that type of thing. It really is. It's like, okay, now it's just like I like it, right? And it's not a detractor from the woman that the guy wants to be there and ask the woman to adapt to certain things, and the woman might have never fished, and the guy fishes every weekend, right? And so she doesn't go every weekend, but she goes once a month, right? And the guy's just going to be jacked up. I mean, he's going to polish that boat. He's going to get everything ready. He's going to have all her favorite drinks in the cooler. He'll probably make sandwiches. You know, he'll be doing all of it because she's going with, right? And it's not overbearing. It's like once a month, right? It's like, because she doesn't really like it that much, or maybe she loves it and she just doesn't want to intrude on his, you know, big hobby that he does with multiple friends, because she might not want to be on the boat with multiple guys, right? But doing that, you know, and then, you know, whether or not he's into your stuff, if you do that, he will pay attention. He'll be like, oh, maybe I should go to the quilting bee, or maybe I should go to hatchet throwing, you know, maybe I should go to
get your nails done.
Maybe I should go get a pedicure, you know. I mean, whatever it is women do, right? You know, like you had biked when you were a kid, but you didn't mountain bike. You know, and I trained you for 4 years before I took you into the woods, and you've had a couple tip overs, but you've had no major accidents, and that's part of the goal, right? I don't want this pretty little face all scarred up and mashed against a tree, right? So I wanted you to have a good experience, like we were talking to a friend of ours, and the first time his wife went with him and the boys, she broke her arm. Mm-hmm. You know. And no instruction, no, you know, she had ridden bike, but no, not for the woods. The woods is totally different. Yeah. The woods is up and down. It's thin trails. It's called single track for a reason. The trees are right here. The trail is right here. Trees are right here.
Right outside your handlebars.
Right outside your handlebars. Sometimes you're maneuvering your bars to get around the trees. Mm-hmm. Rocks, logs, sticks, roots sticking up out of and if it's a little wet, it's greasy. If there's sand in the corners, the front end can slide out if you're going fast. Lots of stuff, right? And like my shins show last week I got a shin bite by my pedals. Today I got a shin scrape bite by my pedals. That was worse. And so I got 3 cuts on my, and I got a little bug, little fly on my cut. Having dinner. And so maybe they like the colloidal silver aloe vera I put on it. But, you know, I wanted to be very careful. You got a little cougar bite from your pedal, and, you know, it sticks around for about a year, it shows. But, you know, you took interest, and I've been overly excited every time, you know. I made sure you had the best bike. I got your first e-bike. You bought your most recent e-bike through your business, that type of thing. And, you know, it's all good. You know, when you do things together, when you're trying to do things together and you're truly interested and you want to, and I'm assuming you have fun mountain biking. You know, we talk about it, we laugh, we tell stories about it. And
yeah, it's a great activity to do together. Fortunately, I mean, you have to, in your relationship, have some kind of overlap, some
Yeah.
kind of thing that you can do together. And going back for a minute, though, I think that this is something that I want to flesh out a bit, and this would be good to talk about with you. There's another topic that I mentioned in my podcast that I wanted to run by you. I've got to remember what that is.
What is your podcast?
Wifey School, and
wifeyschool.us.
That's the
URL.
But the podcast is the Wifey Wake Up podcast. And one of the things that I'm fleshing out too is that I think that, when you grow up with a dad around and it's a good relationship, I think girls naturally want to please their dad. And when you have a good relationship, that then transfers to the husband. And it's a proper kind of pleasing, so where, you want to do things with and for each other. But I think if you don't grow up with that, it's hard to understand. Like, why would you want to do something, like fishing? You brought up the fishing example. Why would you want to go fishing even once a month if it's not something that you like regularly? Well, you grow up getting positive affirmation, good feelings out of just
following, doing the activities, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because usually when you're a young girl, and a young boy, you can't do what your dad is doing. You try to help, you try to do stuff with them. But yeah, so that's actually a red flag for guys. If a girl does not have her father in her life or has a terrible relationship with her father, she's going to need some work. She's going to need some therapy with a good therapist that says, has a good assessment and says, we'll see what happens, but she shouldn't be in therapy for more than 6 months to a year. And if she's been in therapy for 4 or 5 years, then there's either major problems or she's with a bad therapist. And you don't have to save all the therapists and comment for me. I will just say that outright. That good therapists don't take a long time with problems that aren't super major. But it is a major problem to you if she doesn't get therapy. And it shouldn't take long to learn and learn new skills, new ways of thinking about things and wanting to be in a relationship. But my adage is that you should get married very early in the relationship, and you should work on growing together. You should start a life together, and you should be committed to that life. And commitment no matter what, minus cheating and that type of thing, right? Minus the high level abuse or cheating, whatever, high level problems. But yeah, you should get into it as quickly as you can. I mean,
I say maybe to adapt your car analogy, it would be like just starting with a basic car. And, she has daddy issues. It's kind of like the frame is twisted and the steering is off, right?
There's no motor.
Well,
no
there
engine.
Might be a motor. It might just be...
It's empty under the hood.
But what I'm saying is that you'll constantly be going off track. It'll constantly be pulling.
It's pulling.
And that will be difficult in the relationship because she's oriented off. And
well, she doesn't know how to react to your manly ways, right? Yeah. And a woman that doesn't have a male figure, like a father figure in her life, or her father, does not understand true maleness.
Right.
Will have learned maleness from her mother, and a lot of times it's toxic relationship kind of stuff, right? And it's not being able to keep a relationship, and so then men are viewed. The young girl might view the mother as crazy, but she might also view men as a problem, and that's not true. Men are not a problem, and women are not crazy. Specific men are a problem, and specific women are crazy.
Right.
And there's a lot of them on both sides. And when you match them up, you end up with fireworks or nuclear explosions, and you want calmness. Our life at some points has been very boring, and boring is good. Boring is okay. It's fine. Boring is good. Boring is absolutely wonderful, because then but you don't want to be complacent, right? Boring means you got a routine, you're coming home, you're doing similar things. It's up to you to spice it up. To me, it's up to the man, right? I mean, the woman could throw on some lingerie, but it's just going to come off anyway, right? It's very quickly, right? You know, you might as well walk in the bedroom undressing, you know, taking the lingerie off. That might actually be more exciting. Well, you can see that Tara doesn't do that, but because I just surprised myself. No. I'm like, hey, that might be fun.
I won't share what I do.
No, I'm not sharing what you do either. It's obviously great for me.
It works.
Yeah, but I think the man is responsible for romance, right? For saying, let's go to dinner, for even like, let's go get pizza and beer, or pizza and wine, or pizza and fruity drinks, or whatever it is you're doing, right? You know, doing the salsa, bachata, merengue. That's
how the shoulders go.
Whoa! It's because I rammed the shoulder into a tree when I fell off, or not before I fell off. Yeah, before I spun my pedal back. Yeah, it was on anyway. It's a steep uphill on the hard part that I went on. Anyway,
so it's his role to be romantico.
I think so. I think making suggestions, even suggesting things you know she won't want to do, but not because you know she won't want to do it, because you're trying to kind of push the limits a little bit. You know, like hey, let's go away for the weekend and do this and this, and she's like, well, I can't because I got to do this and this, but she will be like, here's a secret for a guy, right? Yeah, okay. You're getting it already. She will be like, in her mind, it's the thought that counts, right? And the guy will not say it if he can't do it, because he doesn't care about the thought, right?
He won't say it if he can't do it, okay?
Yeah.
Because I was just going to say a guy could like throw something wacky out there, but okay, but you're saying within the realm of
no, because
doable.
He's going to constantly think logically, right? It's like, well, we can't go away this weekend because she's got that thing. But you could say, after you're done with that thing, you want to take off. She'd be like, no, because that won't be enough time to really have fun. Let's just cook dinner here and go for a walk. And you go, all right. You know, in your head, you're going, fuck, a walk? I want to go to the park and go for a walk. You know, I'll go sit somewhere and eat and drink. But you might get to do that too once you're out, right? You could suggest it. You could just pull up to your favorite pizza place and be like, surprise!
I guess I know where pizza. We're going next. Push out work. You know?
Yeah, F work. Who wants to work for our bosses anyway? Oh, by the way, we're our own bosses.
Yeah.
Couple of assholes. Slave drivers.
Totally.
We are to ourselves. But I think it is the guy's responsibility. You know, it's when she says she's going to bed and she'll be available for the next hour, you know, show up before the 57th minute ticks over, because she's probably already asleep, right?
Yeah.
You know, I've made that mistake a few times. I've come in the bedroom late and I'm like, hey.
I mean, that's a big window, a whole hour.
And you're like, I'm kind of sleeping. And I'm like,
no, you're not.
You're talking.
I have some Instagram videos to show you. Come on.
Hey, Instagram cat videos, guys.
Yeah.
Instagram cat videos. She'll get all cuddly.
So if you think romance is the responsibility of the guys, I'm going to open it up. What do you think is the responsibility of the woman?
To be receptive. The woman has to open the door, right? Literally, figuratively, metaphorically, and literally. The woman is opening the door, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and
don't get us canceled.
YouTube, they won't be bad at that. But it's literally you're trying. You don't knock on the door. You don't kick the door down. You don't force yourself into the door. You coax the door. You know, the most complicated locking systems on the planet have multiple mechanisms, multiple. The initial mechanisms take multiple turns, multiple button pushes, multiple, fingerprints, eye scans, whatever they are. You know, you might want to look her in the eye. You got a little tiny little bug.
Is that why?
Must have killed it.
That's why James Bond is the ultimate.
Oh, right. No. Almost done. There you go. That's how you clean your wife's face off. Now she's perfect, right?
Thank you. No more dead bugs.
James Bond, what?
Is the ultimate, like, well, not the ultimate, but is a figure of like the ladies' man, right?
Yeah, he's figuring out complex problems all day long. Yeah, all night long. Whether it's a evil criminal syndicate or a sexy woman laying on a couch, that's just as hard to figure out. That woman on the couch.
Interesting.
On the day bed kind of couch. It's not a normal couch. It's always an elegant kind of day bed lounge kind of couch. Yeah. It's a chase. Oh, it's a chase. Okay, it's a chase, guys.
Yeah.
Learn something. This is an educational podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what we classified. Well, we classified entertainment recently, didn't we? Trying to see where.
That's your department. So.
Trying to see where all the viewers are at. Where are my viewers at? I was just going to start a rap.
Okay,
but
I'm going to look at my recent podcasts.
Are we going to do a review?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Of the Tara? Oh, we're going to do a review of the Wifey podcast. The Wifey...
Well, I was going to see what was the topic that I wanted to run by you, but I have to go into my feed to remember.
I'm going to do review roulette with you.
On mine?
On yours.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Review... Excuse me. Review roulette is we find a short and we scroll and then we just tap on one. Okay, so we're going to do that. Zoom, and we'll see what Tara has to say.
Okay.
I think even if you didn't grow up in a farm or with large animals, we've probably all seen or heard that for eons, farmers or people who keep animals, when they're buying an animal, let's just say a horse, this is the typical example, they'll look at the teeth, they'll look at the coat, and they'll look at the hooves. And they know that they can detect how healthy an animal is or even how old it is by the condition of their teeth, coat, and hooves. This is where the phrase, "don't look a gift horse in the mouth," comes from. That is, if someone gifted you a horse, don't look to see how old it is, how healthy it is. Just be grateful they gave you the horse.
Wow.
I think even if you didn't grow up in a farm.
Okay, well, let's review it.
What an interesting
guys
one.
Guys are great at that.
Yeah?
Except for nowadays, there's a lot of injections and plastic stuff and
but I think
lip fillers and
you know intuitively that it's not real.
And then there's caps, there's like veneers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I think it looks neat, or can look neat. But there's something in us that knows it's not real.
Well, what would you tell the ladies? Be careful how much you do, because when you start having kids and they don't look like you.
No, that's the man's fear. That's obviously your fear because you bring that up all the time.
No, they don't look like the woman. Because she's done so much work. I don't bring that up all the time. What are you talking about?
Every single day. What are you talking about?
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
Well,
my fear.
I heard this advice from someone I think was very good. Is look at, if you are getting anything done. I mean, even your makeup. Even if someone is, you go to a makeup bar and you have someone do a tutorial. Look at their makeup. Because a lot of times they're going to do something on you the way that their own makeup is done. And so that's a good starting point. So if you are going, I really highly recommend not getting injections and stuff. They're literally toxic. But, even if you're getting like your eyebrows tattooed or something like that, look at the person who's doing the job and, do they have they lost touch with what looks real, what looks good?
Well, why do you think I told you to do the Wifey wake up with no makeup?
Probably something to do with that.
Because I wanted you to talk to women in just plain, bare, just talk to them. Because you are a wonderful woman, you're a wonderful wife, and I wanted women to benefit from your thought process, your years of experience being married, the troubles that we've been through, the ups and downs, and how you've handled them. Because sometimes they're not handled perfectly in the moment, but you learn from it. And over time, now you've jumped that hurdle, right? You might have hit the hurdle and tripped over it, and that's why the kind of happens. I skinned my knee, I hurt my elbow, and, bit my lip, right? But then you see another hurdle that's the same height, and you jump it, right? And then now you've cleared it again, and you're good at it. And you need to share that, because there's too many people online sharing information that is wrong and bad. You know, these guys that have lists of red flags about women. You know, well, the 110 things to look out for when you meet a woman. Oh, come on. You can't, this tree dropped a leaf on my head.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you're
going to rule out everybody.
You can't, yeah. You're going to find a problem, and you're going to have problems with anybody. You and I had problems. You and I talked about things and worked them out. I came to you as a man, and I said, I love you, I want to be with you, but there's something we need to talk about that I can't live with. So we talked about this in a previous podcast. I made you feel secure. I told you what I wanted, and then I told you what the thing was. Once you said, what is it? You're like, And you came with a lot of bad habits that you learned growing up from your mother and some of the other women in your family. There was some pretty deeply seated strategies about how to deal with things that they weren't evil. They weren't directed as hate, but they were in your subconscious, and they just came out. And I noticed them, and I was like, okay, this. And you were like, oh, some of them you didn't even know you were doing. Some of them you actually thought you were correct. And then you were like, okay, I'll try not doing that, right? And you were adaptable. You had basically told me, and we had talked about it, you said, I'm willing to rewrite my software, my program. I'm willing to erase what I know and change it so that we can do this instead of this, right? And if you get married, it's got to be this. It's got to be trying to mesh constantly. Yeah. And it's going to be sometimes, one finger, we're barely hanging on. Sometimes, it's the other side. Sometimes we'll miss, and we got to retract and get back to center, right? That balance is there's left and right. We have to be at center, right? Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. Peace, right? Thank you, gratitude, that type of thing, right? We have to think of things metaphorically, and we have to reason with what we want, right? The want can't be, we live in Minnesota, so one of the wealthy places to live is on Lake Minnetonka, one of the high-end places, right? So we can't be, I want a $10 million mansion on Lake Minnetonka if we're making $100,000 a year. We can't think like that. Nobody can. I mean, if that's what you want, and you're talking about getting catfished, and then if you want to fish in the big water, you better be prepared. You got to have the equipment, the boat. You got to be used to big water. You better have the life preserver. You better know how to swim. Because if you want to go from country girl living in Carver, Minnesota, to being
uptown girl.
An uptown girl on Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah.
Riding in a $500,000 boat, living in a $10 million house. What did your parents teach you to help you get there? Or would you blow that up in the first week? And you'd have to marry a guy and keep your mouth shut for 5 years so that you could learn the environment, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of these women are just like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and I deserve this, and I deserve that. You deserve exactly what you have, period. And you will deserve more when you can get more, when you can get into a position to garner more, when you know more and you can generate more. That's how life works. And that's all that needs to be told to people. You don't need the red flag list. You don't need this. You don't need that. You need to know if somebody didn't grow up with two parents, they have missing components. If you don't have two wheels on a bicycle, you have a unicycle. And if you can ride it like that, you're not going to go that fast, and you're not going to go very far, and you're going to fall down a lot. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. So, I hope all that makes sense to people, because it is that simple. It's typical mechanical components, and it adapts to people. We're sitting here, there's a table. We're sitting on chairs. They have 4 legs. If the chairs had 3 legs, we'd have to lean in one direction. If the chairs had 2 legs, we'd be balancing with our 2 feet, right? But with 4 legs, we could just plop down in the chair and just sit here and be like, what's over there? What's over there? We don't care. We know the chair is not going to move, right? Yeah. I sat down on a chair at my parents' the other day. It's one of these folding chairs with the fabric seat, and it's been sitting outside for a while. It became structurally unsound, and the fabric broke out, and I fell into the chair. and it's got cross members like this, and I fell into that. My legs got cramped into the V, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, thankfully this happened to me and not my elderly parents,
right?
Because they would not have been able to get out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that thing, like when a little kid sits in a bucket and they're stuck in it, like a 5-gallon bucket. And so I'm like, that chair was structurally not sound, so it was engineered wrong. That chair had like half of each parent. That chair didn't have full relationships with 2 good parents, right? It was structurally unsound. It was mechanically not correct for the outdoor environment, because the sun hurt it, the rain hurt it, and then it became unsound. And when I sat on it, it broke. And that's the same thing with people. Depending on the upbringing, the training from the good, environment of family and people that come together and relatives and friends and all this kind of stuff, that makes a structurally sound human being that can handle multiple scenarios, multiple people, life in general, ups and downs, and that's what everybody needs to strive for, and everybody can. If a 50-year-old man or a 50-year-old woman can learn new things and can practice and have better strategies, and then we'll ultimately have better outcomes.
Well, the challenge is you don't know what you don't know, right? And so life ultimately is
But in today's day and age, people can grab this thing out of their pocket,
right?
And they can learn like no other time in history.
Well, I was saying, life is your feedback, right? Where you're having challenges is likely where you need to learn some new skills.
Well, it used to be everybody went to the church social on Saturday, right? Everybody went to the county fair. Everybody went to the town, the street dance. Everybody went to the Polocheski days, to the beer festival, to all these things, right?
Yeah.
And now everybody just sits and looks at their phone and looks at content that doesn't help them very much, other than make them fearful about life. And that's the wrong way to be in life. You need to be aware of what's going on down the street. Did you hear some shooting? Don't go that way. Go this way. Did you hear there's a tornado coming? Maybe if there's sirens going off in your neighborhood, maybe don't get in your car and drive around. Maybe go down in your basement and just wait it out. If you want to be adventurous, get in your car and drive around, right?
I want to slightly change the topic, because I think so you are extremely aware of what is or is not a threat in the area. So, especially since the riots happened in Minneapolis soon after COVID started, right? It has not been
the year of riots
good.
Was 2020, yeah.
Right. It still hasn't recovered. It's still not as good as it was.
No, it's infested with gangs now.
So you were just talking about not live in fear, but know where the threat is, know what's going on, where you're going. But I mean, there are a lot of people who will still go into Minneapolis like it's just no problem, right? Mall of America, no problem. And just kind of oblivious. And if I were to even say, I'm not going there, it just doesn't feel like a safe place at this point. And I have received the feedback that, why, you're overly cautious. It's fine. People go there every day, and it's, thousands of people are fine. And, that information primarily comes from you. And so, at the same time you're talking about not to live in fear, but it seems like there's like opposite day kind of thing going on.
Fear will push you into observation, which then puts you into awareness.
Where the college is.
The fear is good. It's good to have an amount of fear, right? Fear makes you smart. Fear makes you slow down when you should slow down. Fear makes you speed up. Like if you're in a race and you want to win, you got to go faster than the guy in front of you, right? So the fear of losing makes you go faster, right? Now, if you're going too fast, the fear of crashing makes you slow down. So a balanced level of fear is what you want, right? You want to mesh that awareness with the fear, right? The same thing that we're talking about when we're talking about marriage, right? There's a balance to be had in everything. So yes, I keep apprised of what's going on, because the riots came all the way out towards the town where we live, and there was threats of things that were coming out and demonstrations and all this kind of stuff, and there's no need for it, to be out in a country town. There's a bunch of these idiots just trying to to show their, to flex their opinions on other people. It's a good thing they didn't come out to a small country town because all the country songs are true. They're not fake. We're gonna have a lot of noise in a second here. We'll wait the Bobcat 4x4 going by.
So one of my podcasts was about, is he controlling or is he protective?
Yes.
How do you think? Yes? Just generally yes?
Both.
Yes?
Yes.
So what do you think is going too far? A man, like, what would be the scenario that a woman could present to you and you'd be like, no, he's really controlling?
Well, first of all, I would tell that woman that's talking to me that she has to bring her husband if I'm going to talk to her. I mean, let's say our granddaughter, let's say she is dating, right? And she comes to us one day and says, my boyfriend keeps doing this. I'm going to give her strategies, right? I'm going to tell her, in a dating relationship, there's different levels of commitment than there is in a marriage relationship, unless you're acting like you're married. Then to me, it's the same thing now, because if you're doing everything that married people do,
if you're playing house,
basically, then you should get married, and then you should live like a married couple. But if it's just dating and she's still living with her parents and he's living with his parents and stuff, then I'll say, well, you probably need to have a schedule, the things that you're doing, and give him a couple times a week when you guys can hang out. Because you're hanging out every day and you're in connection constantly on your phone, you never get a break. The heart never grows fonder. You're going to argue about things over text. You're not going to be able to realize really what the other person is saying because there's no tone. And a lot of shortcuts, WTFs and emojis and all that kind of bullshit. And then your cortisol and your dopamine and all your chemicals are going to be messed up, because studies show now that texting actually is a depressant. That if you're trying to relay your emotions over text, your brain actually gets depressed because you don't get that interaction. You don't get that, hey, what do you think? Just a little bit of a touch, right? Or you're seeing my expressions now. It's like, oh, I can read. The communication is redundant, right? The way I'm sitting, the way I'm leaning, the tone of my voice, the way my hands go out, the way my eyes look, the times that I look at you, the times that I don't.
Well, we've been accustomed for generations to even history. Before it was written down was oral history.
Yeah.
We're accustomed to hearing someone's voice, so there's much more to it, I would say, than we realize.
Yeah, you're losing all your skills.
So let's specify it though to a marriage relationship, because I agree. It depends. I think people are going too fast oftentimes, and so it blurs the boundaries, and they can't really get their bearings on what is appropriate at different stages because they just go all the way too fast. So let's say in a marriage.
Okay, well, if a woman has to say something to me or to you, the answer should be, are you being abused? Are you being physically abused? And if they say no, then you have to ask, are you being, verbally accosted? And if they say no, then you have to say you're going to have to talk to your husband. I mean, you can't help, right? The only thing you can do is just say, be a wife, be a woman, be a wife. You can't be like, oh, that guy sounds like an asshole, you should leave him. You can't do that.
So
because she's presenting his worst and her best, right?
So if there's obviously physical abuse, that is
there's physical abuse. She stays in our guest room until she can get the divorce done. I mean, it's instantaneous to me. If somebody comes and says I'm being physically abused that day, hopefully they came with a suitcase, because I'm certainly not going to let them go back to the house.
So what is verbal abuse to you?
Well, if they're being screamed at in their face and swearing and screaming and from a guy, yelling is physical intimidation, right? Because the voice gets low, the voice elevates, the postures get aggressive, right? And a woman is going to be like, whoa, I better either back off, and some women don't, and they should. It's kind of like if a bear is in your face growling and putting its paw up like it's going to whack you, you don't put your head in the way of it, So
I've heard the term financial abuse. Do you think there are any ways that men could literally be financially abusive to their wives?
I would say that'd be more controlling. controlling of the funds, and there might be reasons for that, right? There might be the man might have a tight grip on the pocketbook because he doesn't make that much money, and she thinks that she can spend more than they're not communicating properly, right?
Well, we already covered in a previous podcast that I would be a terrible husband because I would lock down the credit cards, and if I would be financially controlling.
Most women would make terrible men.
Yeah,
that's why lesbians get divorced, and there's more abuse in lesbian relationships than in standard relationships. So
that's why I'm not too partial. So when someone says financial abuse, I'm like, well, like what's really going on?
You can say, what do you consider financial abuse? And if they say something, you can say, well, it sounds like he's controlling. Are you going without clothing? Are you going without food? Are you going with, do you get to eat 3 meals a day? Are they nutritious? This type of thing is important, right, for human beings. Do you need a new dress every week or new shoes every month? Or, probably not, right? But I would say if you don't like it, either sit down and talk with him, bring him over here, we can all talk, or leave.
Well, you could do something about it too. Maybe, are you making an income? Do you need a part-time, full-time job?
Well, yeah, you're just giving me, you're just like, what would you say? And I'm just giving you in the instant what I would say. I wouldn't tell the person to go get a job.
Well, I'm saying that would,
My thing is to figure out what's actually going on and if it is truly abusive, right? Mm-hmm. Are you being abused? Are you being fed? Are you being, whatever, right? What are the needs? Mm-hmm. What is a spouse responsible for? Legally, they can't starve you. That's physical abuse then, right? So, but they can control their money, and you've got to decide if you want to be with that person that is that way, right?
Well, I would say if let's just say it's a matter of one person is overspending, and
but they have to work that out,
right? Absolutely, because one person might say, "Well, you're cutting me off. I can't do this." Assuming their basics are covered, right?
Again, the only advice I can give is bring your husband over and we'll talk. And I would talk. I would just be like, hey, she came to us and said that she feels like you're financially abusive. I said you're probably just controlling of the money that you make. And why don't we all talk about this so that it doesn't escalate to a bad situation in your marriage?
Yeah.
Because if she felt she couldn't go to you, she came to us, and here we are sitting here. And if he says, fuck all y'all, I don't want to talk to you about any of it, then we go like, okay, all right, well, not trying to offend, not trying to, put our foot where it doesn't belong, but just know that it's open space here. It's an open talking space. It's, I don't like all the top, it's a safe space, all that kind of stuff. I just say, we're willing to help if you want to talk about it. And that's a pride thing for guys. If they're not making enough money and the woman wants more than they can afford, that's a problem. And the guy needs to say, we can't afford that. We can't do that. Or just, we're not doing that. And the guy needs to say, if you married me, this is where we're at, this is what we got, this is how we're doing it. And if you don't want to be with me, then you need to decide to do something about it. And if the woman chooses to stay, she's accepting the situation as it is.
But I think it's important too at the beginning of the relationship that particularly the marriage, right?
Things change constantly.
They do, but you have an agreement, some kind of agreement, and then things change and you have to discuss it, right? So how are you going to handle the finances? And then
what did I tell you?
You said you'll always have a good roof over your head, the best food I can buy.
Yeah, you'll always have shelter and the best food I can buy. And that's what I have provided. Anything else beyond that is a fringe benefit, right? If we go on a trip, if we got nice bikes, if we have nice vehicles, if we have nice clothes, if we have, whatever, right? That's all benefit. That's above and beyond, right? Because the marriage vows are for better or for worse, and what a man tries to do is he tries to live in the middle of that, right? Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good. But if he can stay consistent and continue to grow something, right? You might not always be growing your checkbook, but you might be growing your business, right? You might be you and I have been on a long run of growing business. You for the last 6 years, me for the last, since what, 2004? So the last 20 years, you know, and I'm in a field that's super competitive. I'm in a field that is manufacturing, and if you don't specialize, you have to have good efficiencies and good pricing and good methodologies within your company. And I've niched myself out, right? I've carved out a niche in the space where I'm in demand, right? But it also requires me to have very expensive equipment, right? My overhead is very high. So you have to be smart. You have to be strategic. And then we decide to come out with our own products. Well, you know, you think, oh, I got this product, I'm going to sell it. Well, it doesn't happen right away sometimes. And and now you got to deal with that. You know, I bootstrapped it all. I put the money into it. And we've had talks, and I let you know where I'm at and what I'm trying to do and that kind of stuff. And we talk about your business too, and we help each other if we can. And so, and then we go out on days like today to not be involved in business, and then we do a podcast, and then we start talking about business. So yeah, I would love to help any couple that wants to talk about life, business, being in business together, relationships, that kind of stuff. And as you can tell from me, it's very simple. You've heard me say the same thing since we've got married. No matter what angle you've come at me from, I say the same thing every time, don't I? I'm not looking for the phrases, but I say the same things over and over.
You're very consistent.
I'm simple. I'm complex and I'm smart. I get it. But I'm simple when it comes to life. You have to stand on a foundation. If you're not standing on a foundation, you're standing on nothing, or you're standing on something that's wobbly and you're going to fall. So my foundation is always the same. I provide shelter. I provide the best food I can buy. And it's been organic, freezers full of meat, fresh eggs from the farm or our own chickens, down the list, right? And we have our own chickens, and I take care of our chickens, and plus I work, plus I own a business, plus I help you with your business, plus, right? And women need to see what their guy is doing. If your guy goes to work every day and he comes home every night, he deserves a hug and a kiss, no matter what he's achieving, right? Because that means he loves you. That means he wants to be there. If he's, I'll say this out loud, guys, if he's going out every night with the guys, if he's going on all these trips everywhere and he doesn't really want to be around you, then wife, go look in the mirror and decide what is wrong with you and why he doesn't want to be with you. Because he married you to be with you. And if he's spending all his time doing something else, that means, I'll say it this way, I'm going to say it like this, you're driving him away. If he doesn't want to be with you, it's because you're driving him away. Whether it's expectations, whether it's disapproval, whether it's, whatever it is, his perception is that you don't respect him, you don't think that he is the man that you thought he was, that he thought he could be, that he's trying to prove that he is, that you're never really validated in any way. And he's just like, I get validation at work, I get validation when I go hunting because I kill an animal and I can do that every day. I get validation from all my buddies when we go play football or golf because I'm kick ass, and my buddy's like, oh yeah, Brad, you're awesome, you're so, and then I buy everyone drinks and they think I'm even better, you go down the list, and if a guy's getting more validation from his friends and from his activities, why would he want to be around you? If you're tearing him down, if you're saying, we don't have this, we don't get that, you didn't even fix that on the house, you didn't blah, 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 right? That's generally what's happening. Women are complaining because they're not in life where they want to be or where they thought they would be. And they have unspoken unrealistic expectations generally.
There's a lot there.
Ta-da!
Yeah. No, I agree, and that has certainly come to my awareness even before, we've talked about this. I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast, is because these were realizations that I had to make on my own, even though you might have been trying to hint at it or, but I think there are a couple. I'm a patient guy, and most guys are patient. Most guys are hoping for change in the right direction. So I think there are a couple of culprits. So people are just marketed to all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think women are just naturally, because we're biologically programmed to be more aware of people, of things, to observe, right? I think that also makes us more receptive to marketing. And so that's why you get the women who all of a certain, a fashion comes around and women adopt it. Or, like for me, it was kind of crazy, like big eyebrows are in. I guess they're still in.
I'm in.
Yeah, you're totally in. And I was like, wow, the Jennifer Aniston generation that just had the pencil thin eyebrows. And then what was it, the recent series she was in? It was a really good series. It was about, she got COVID during it. She was a news person. I forget what it's called.
Okay.
I forget what it's called, but it was really good. And, all of a sudden she has like caterpillars over her eyes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so incredible how, and women generally are very receptive to that, like, how is it that we have fashion? And I think that we're very receptive to marketing. And so it's all around us, right? And so you talked about unexpressed expectations, right? And
women make a mistake of asking the guy how he's feeling. He doesn't want to talk about his feelings, and they make a mistake of asking him how his day was.
Okay, well, that's another tangent. Can we get in?
Okay, go ahead, keep going.
So at least for me, I'll speak for myself, where the way we started our relationship, we started off in a network marketing, Amway Online, the first version of it. And, part of the process is you do dream boards, and it's like, you can have this and you can be that,
Actually, our first business was you were working at the martial arts school for me, and you were watching the front desk, and you even opened the school when I was out of town.
Well, we weren't technically on the same paperwork. I mean, I was kind of filling in.
Yeah.
But that was a business that we were doing, and so in a way that set up our relationship where my expectations were way up here. I mean, there were things that I didn't even know about that I, like certain brands or whatever that I was exposed to, and it was dream building, right? Build up your dreams so you would build your motivation to build the business. And I think that was, in a way, that was detrimental for me. Now, because I thought those were reasonable expectations. I thought that's what we were aiming for. And, in the whole scheme of things,
you can aim for the target, but if your bow doesn't have enough oomph, you're not going to make it.
Well, but then, we stopped doing that business because of the people were not people we wanted to be around. But those expectations didn't change. Now, granted, I was in my early 20s, and so, you don't have a whole lot of life experience at that point. So my standards were still up here. And so I wonder sometimes, had we started our relationship kind of in a more standard way, where we maybe started a typical business together, that was just like, well, we'll get what we get when we've got it, But
that's the way that business works too. If you can build your dream, right? You can put a picture of a car on the wall, or you can put a picture of a house on a wall, or a pool, or whatever it is you're trying to build your dream towards, but you can't get it until you can get it. It's the same thing. It's just looking ahead on a bigger scale. And you notice I wasn't all about pushing dream boards. I didn't personally need any motivation. I built the business evidently faster than anybody other than one of the guys had ever built it. And we got to a very high level very quickly. And because I didn't need any motivation, because I was already a business owner, I understood sales, marketing, I understood talking to people, and I understood talking about business. And I was just, I built every business I built it for success in the long run. And I built it so that it continues to produce, right? Getting into a niche in business, having a niche or a niche, whatever you want to call it, gives you a leg up, gives you an advantage over other companies, other businesses, right? And then building in a multi-level business, building a large team. Building a large team is a foundation, right? Signing up lots of people and teaching them how to run the business. Lots of people would sign up lots of people, but I taught everybody how to run their businesses. I taught everybody what to do, and I would help them. That's why we grew so fast, so big, so quickly. So big, so fast, so quickly. And I do the same thing in every business I'm in. I did it in my martial arts school. I went all over. I went to every bookstore. I put flyers back in the day before the internet. I put flyers in the martial arts magazines. I put flyers in the women's magazines for women's self-defense, right? I strategized all that stuff. Every store, every grocery store, every hardware store, every coffee shop had my flyers on their bulletin boards in their lobbies. And I had people like you going everywhere handing stuff out. We got in trouble for handing out flyers multiple times because sometimes we'd put them in mailboxes and you're not supposed to do that. And so, but we had to get the word out. We wanted the business to grow. We wanted more students. We wanted things to happen. And the difference, why things are very simple to me, is because I've tried complex things. I do so many things that everything I do has to be very efficient. So I cut to the quick immediately. If I get a blood blister under my fingernail, I take a drill and by hand and I spin it until I drill through my fingernail and I get the blood out because I don't want the nail to come off, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't wait around. I don't ask a doctor. I don't go to the hospital. I just do it myself. So it's and a lot of guys are that way, and a lot of guys are very unsure of themselves, and when they get married or when they're dating, they ask the woman a lot of things. And I'll be honest with you guys, women will tell you their opinion, but that doesn't mean that they know what they're doing. It doesn't mean that they know anything. And I'm not putting women down. I'm just saying, as a man, you have to blaze your own trail. You have to make your own way. You can't depend on your girlfriend or your wife or your mom or anybody like that. You got to blaze your own trail.
Do you think guys tend to oversell themselves
Of
to
course.
women?
Of course.
Because
what is makeup and hair and dresses and Spanx and all that kind of shit? That's overselling, right?
Well.
Yep.
Yes and no.
Yeah, it is. Yep. So you can't ask a woman.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, like, when you get together, the guy still can potentially get that, But if a guy's, the reason I was asking is because I think it is pretty prevalent where the woman's expectations are here and there's some kind of miscommunication. And so is it really that just did he oversell himself and be like, yeah, in 5 years we'll be here and we'll be doing that, or is she just overly she's allowing herself to have unreal expectations?
Well, if a guy promises a girl things to get in their pants, just to be blunt about it, a woman needs to be guarded against that, right? I mean, a woman needs to be like, interesting. But a woman shouldn't be putting her worth on things that he can give her, right? That's kind of the materialistic mistake that people make these days, right? They see stuff on social media sites, and you can look all over the internet, you can watch people's lifestyles everywhere, and then a woman looks in a mirror and she goes, I'm just as pretty as that woman that's with that guy, so I should be able to get a guy that's that rich and provides that kind of thing. And then they want to get with the hot guy in their class or in their college class or at their office, right? And that guy's just on the same level as every other guy there, most of the time, and can't provide, but he might be a great athlete, but that doesn't even mean he has a job. He might come from a rich family, but they might cut him off. You don't know, right? So I would expect to have a good relationship, because what do we know? 1 and 1 makes 11. Right? 1 and 1 doesn't make 2. 1 and 1 makes 11. So it's quantum, right? It's exponential. When me and you are working together and we're flowing and we're going smooth and everything's happening, it's like click, 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 click. We understand each other. When we're a little out of sync, we can be in the same room speaking English and we're like, what? Why did you say, how did that, what? I didn't even, or we don't say nothing and then we go in 2 different directions like, are you What? Oh, you said you're not going?
Well, it just happened down the trail. You went left. I was like, which direction did you go? There was a lot of brush, so I couldn't see what direction you went. Because weren't too far ahead, but
I was
far
a
enough.
corner or two ahead of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the other day when I was like, I'm going to grab a few protein bars. You're like, I already have some.
I didn't say I already have some.
No. Yeah,
You heard I already have some.
You said grab two.
I said grab two or grab an extra one, and
Yeah.
you heard I already have some.
I already have two.
But that's communicating in different rooms. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Face to face, sometimes you can't understand. Why do we try to communicate from separate rooms? You know, it's because I was heading down the stairs and you were going back into the kitchen, and and it's like, you know, we should stop and be patient. Even with our great communication, we should stop, look at each other, make sure we understand, because we got halfway there and you were like, and you dug through your purse and you had one, so thankfully, you know.
Well, I think that's a great point to end on, is that, you know, it all comes back to communication, because the more you go with, like, let's say my expectations are here and then it starts going off in this direction and we don't talk, you know, then we're just going in different,
well, your expectations too,
directions.
Your expectations are relative to what you think I can do. And
right, and
you know,
I think you're absolutely incredible.
Well,
so
I am, but
that's why I had the question about
you got
what
you got, right? I have what I have. I may be projecting that I'm going after this, right? But until that happens, that money hits the bank and everything's allocated and whatever's left over is mine, that, you know, I don't have that amount. You know, I may have a large working capital in my account, but it doesn't mean that I can use that money for anything else, right? Or I may be doing something in business and it's like a big job is coming in, but I can't spend that until I got it, you know. And so and then you're like, not you, but you like to think that type of thing is going to continue, but then you have a slow period for a couple months or whatever, and you got to have working capital to get you through the slow period so you can build it back up when it comes again. And then we get into these political cycles, and these politicians keep talking and messing up everything for everybody. You know, politicians need to do their job and keep their mouths shut, you know, about the economy. What are they talking about the economy for? They know nothing about the economy. They're trying to create economy or trying to kill economy, and that gets super frustrating. So, business owners unite. All right, Jon and Tara podcast. Subscribe. I know you love us. At least you love Tara. You know, what about me?
Leave the comments for Jon, and I'll read them too. Be entertaining.
All right.
Have a good one, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye.